Isn't it ironic? You expected knowledge from a sattvic source, and yet here you are. Well, knowledge, if useful, wherever it comes from, doesn't matter. As I have said earlier, I will not be spoon feeding you everything. So let's get to the point. Do you remember the 1,000 rupees currency note of India? What happened to it? It was demonetized. It was removed from the system like garbage. But does that mean it has lost its value? It has not. It still exists. It does not exist as a currency note, but its value is still here. So just because something is not being used as it used to be doesn't mean it has lost its value. That is your first takeaway. Keep that analogy with you throughout this video. Let us talk about a tree and why it has several branches and leaves. It is to increase the efficiency of photosynthesis and other functions. In order to maintain a healthy long life, a tree cannot do it with a single stem and a single leaf. The vital functions of the tree needs to be carried out in a large quantity or a large scale. So it needs to be divided. Hence, the division of labor. Each leaf is doing the same job, but the large number of leaves is increasing the efficiency of the tree and reducing the workload of a single leaf. That is your second point for reference. In the same way, even when a human body functions as a single unit, it is divided into 11 systems, 11 organ systems for 11 different functions. But essentially, all those 11 organ systems do the same thing or the common function, maintaining a healthy life. So there are 11 systems according to the science, modern science, let's say. But in the case of Ayurveda, there are only 3 fundamental principles or 3 systems for reference. Vata, Pitta and Kapha, called the Tridoshas. Why is that? Let me give you an example to understand better why the number 3 is important. Let us explore how that came to be through a story of scientific discovery. The discovery of subatomic particles, proton, neutron and electron. I will not be elaborating the whole story of proton, neutron and electron, as you can find it through other sources, even through textbooks or other YouTube videos if you may. But the essence is, there are 3 with the reference of a 0 neutral and going higher in charge proton positive, and there is an electron going lower in charge. We consider everything with the reference of 0 and the variation from 0. It's either positive or negative or higher or lower or more or less. It is fixed in our minds that everything has a standard of 0 and the whole world revolves around 0. So let's see. Let's compare a proton to a dosha, let's say Vada. They are not similar, they are not doing any similar functions, but just say for the sake of reference, let's compare them. What is the function of a proton? To provide a positive charge to an atom. That may not be the only function of a proton, but let's say for a basic understanding, it gives the positive charge in an atom. But does that mean proton is composed of a single unit? No, it is not. It is made of 3 quarks. You know quarks, right? So that means even though proton consists of a single function, it is divided into other things, or it has its, let's say, subordinates or subordinate particles or inferior particles, let's say, just for the sake of understanding. Just like that, comparing to Vada, Vada has a single function. I will explain that later, but understand that Vada does a single main function, but it is divided into other systems or other functions in the body. Those all are different functions in different systems or different locations of our body, but together they constitute a single function. I will explain what it is. Let's take another example to understand the subordinate systems of Vada. Who is a construction worker? Do they only do one single job? No, they do not. A construction worker may be someone who cuts the stone, lays the bricks, mixes the concrete, does the painting job, anything that comes under the word construction. All these people constitute the term construction worker. They are collectively called construction workers. So let us just say that I am telling someone I have witnessed the process of a construction of a building. What have I actually witnessed? Have I actually witnessed the construction? No, I have not. I have witnessed, as I have told earlier, the breaking of a stone, laying of bricks, or painting, or mixing of concrete, all the processes within the term construction. I can only witness the process that those are inside the main term of construction. So basically, construction is a code name given for a collective process or a collective entity. I am using the term entity for future reference in case of Vada. So I'll give you another example for a little bit of easier understanding. When I say I am pointing at a forest, what does that actually mean? I will be pointing either at a tree or a plant or the gap between them. I cannot point at the whole. I cannot just pinpoint the whole forest. No, I cannot. I can only point at one of those components. So does that mean forest does not exist? No, it does not. Forest does exist, but it can only exist as the collective function or the collective existence of the trees and plants, and the absence of trees and plants among them. So I'm just going to compare it with one of the most important dosha among three doshas, Vada. You know what Vada is? Essentially speaking, Vada is the life force. The force that gives, or the force that gives us energy, or the force that gives life to a being. That might be a little bit philosophical or confusing, right? I'll try to explain it in simpler terms. Let's say in our body, as I have told, there are 11 systems. Let's consider the circulation and nervous system. I'm leaving everything else. In the circulation system, the blood is constantly pumping throughout the body without interruption by the heart, right? So the heart is using the energy or the electric impulse, not the energy, the electric impulse given from the sinoatrial node in the right atrium. The sinoatrial node is generating some kind of energy. Okay, it may be electrical, it is electric energy. Still, it's an electric stimulus, but it's an energy. If the heart stops, we can restart it with the defibrillator if applied properly, right? So the electric impulses or stimuli in our nervous system, essentially that is everything what we are. What is death? I'm not going to say the scientific definition of death, but death is the absence of all kinds of movement in a body. When a person is unresponsive in all ways, his heart is not pumping, he is not breathing, his nervous system is no longer shooting impulses, that means he is dead. So such a person who is completely dead, let's say for a few hours, cannot be brought back to life with a proper administration of electricity. Can they be? They cannot. And why is that? If life is only electricity, why cannot we bring back a person from death by using electricity? Okay, there is a temporary method for that, which is the defibrillator, but that's the case when the patient is not completely dead for a couple of hours. It has a time limit. After that time limit, something gets out of our body or something is lost from our body, which is actually causing all these impulses and the production of energy. And that force, that life force, is doing all these functions, or at least let's say it is enabling all these functions. That is completely lost. And that life function, translated into Sanskrit, becomes prana. And that prana is considered as pranavayu or pranavada in Ayurveda. So vada is essentially the life force or the energy source that's providing the life, that is initiating and maintaining the movements. As I've said, movement is the sign of life, right? Only living organisms and living things can move by itself. Okay, there may be a few exceptions in case of those sliding rocks or something in some deserts. You can see those in YouTube videos also, but the response to a stimuli and movement, okay, now it's clarified. The response to a stimuli and movements are the classical symptoms of or classical signs of life, a living being. So Vada is essentially the life force, the force that creates life or the force that maintains life. There are other scientific implications for Vada, where we can say that Vada is the electric impulse, or Vada is the movement, the peristaltic movement, the muscle contraction. But Vada is not that process. As I've said, it is the energy or force that helps in doing that function. In such a short time, I cannot explain the whole concept of Vada. I'll be doing that in a further video. And what about the other two doshas, Pitta and Kapha? What are they? They will also be explained in further videos. Well, that's all I have. See you later.